Hi, and welcome to Cinema Figures. I'm your host, Caitlin, and today we are going to be looking at Highwaymen. So this is a brand new release from Netflix, and with a runtime of just over 2 hours and a original budget of $49 million. This is the untold story of the legends that took down Bonnie and Clyde. So this film stars Kevin Costner, Woody Harrelson, and Kathy Bates. So normally when we look at a Bonnie and Clyde film, we're normally looking at it through the eyes of the outlaws. We don't actually look that far into the lawmakers and the officers who were trying to take them down, and in some instances, you know, the victims, which this film, on the other hand, looks at the law and the way they looked at Bonnie and Clyde, where a lot of the poorer people around about basically saw them as a Robin Hood type character duo, where I mean, they were killers, and they were going around robbing and murdering people point blank at some points, actually shooting them in the face. So as we get on into the, as we dive right on into the film, we get to see a prison yard break, in which case we see Bonnie Parker actually walk out into the middle of a field and cause a distraction in case that a number of their men can actually escape a prison yard. So all but one actually makes it out, so all in all pretty successful. So as we dive back on into what's going on with Kathy Bates' character, she and her office are pretty embarrassed at the string of crimes that this outlaw duo is causing in her neck of the woods, and she's demanding for her men to do something to stop it. And that's when one man in particular suggests bringing out a few Rangers. So the Texas Rangers have been disassembled for some time now, and he lists off two men in general that he thinks are enough to do the job. So this is enter into Kevin Costner's character, otherwise known as Frank Hammer. So Frank has actually done pretty well for himself since the, disillusionment of the Rangers. He's married pretty well and done fairly well in private security. And as you see, his wife has a brand new car. He's got this very nice estate. And, he's got an attack pig. So, he's living pretty high. Now, put that in comparison to Woody Harrelson's character, who is living with his daughter and her son. And he's living in a bank-owned home. Their home's been foreclosed on. They're struggling. Clearly different compared to his partner. So we get to see these two working together and trying to take down Bonnie and Clyde. And no matter what they do, it seems like they are always one step behind the duo. So there are a number of instances where they almost get them. There's one where they're outsmarted in a field and there's just dust everywhere, and when they finally stop and let all the dust settle, you can just see all of the different tire treads throughout. Clearly these are two old men going up against two young, as they call them, kids, or the jackass and his girlfriend, as they refer to them in the film. But I gotta tell you, I did love the way that this film was shot. It was very dynamic. They're really, even the slower parts of this film were very well thought out. Costner and Harrelson definitely committed to this role, to these positions, and to tell the story of these two out of retirement rangers and what it meant to be on the hunt for the dynamic duo, Bonnie and Clyde. Now, as far as the costuming throughout was gorgeous. There's even a moment when the guys actually think they may have seen Bonnie walking down the street, and you find out that, you know, it was just a young woman, because that was all the fashion, all the rage back then. The short hair and tight dresses and everything. Really, really well thought out throughout. There was a really great scene where Costner's character was actually going gun shopping, and he has a catalog. I love the fact that he's got a catalog and he's just got stuff circled. He looked like a kid with the original Toys R Us like Christmas ad. Anyone from the 90s or older will definitely know what I'm talking about with the Toys R Us Christmas ad. But he just had all these guns circled, and he was asking specific things, and it was just really thought out. And the shop owner's like, oh, okay, so which one of these do you want to try out? And he's like, oh, I'll take them. He's like, well, which ones? All of them. Because, you know, he has to think ahead. When you looked at Bonnie and Clyde and all of the different ammunition, the different weaponry that they carried in their arsenal, you kind of got to be ready for it. Because, you know, they're younger, quicker shots, better eyes, steadier hands. You had to be ready for it. Now, as far as the actual setup and the actual takedown of Bonnie and Clyde, yes, this is a scene that I knew going into it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen because this is the story of Bonnie and Clyde. You know you had to see it actually happen. But you just never really prepare yourself for that 100%. And even from the Rangers' perspectives, they always stated that they were going to take down Clyde, Barrows would go down, he had to die, and that Bonnie would surrender. But what they weren't really anticipating, and the way they portrayed it in this film, Bonnie reached for the gun. And when that happened, the signal went out and they were shot up, the car was shot up. You get to see as all of the lawmen are approaching the vehicle, still shooting it while it's slowly rolling. And then there's the scene where their bodies and the vehicle are actually being driven into town. And the way the crowds, the same crowds that loved them and adored them just a few weeks before, that were thinking of them as being basically Robin Hood, you know. They were stealing from the banks and they were giving to the poor. They were helping out a lot of small communities, you know, giving toys to children, this, that, whatever. And they get to have a chance to see the downfall of their heroes, as they considered them. And, you know, as humans are, we're kind of greedy and manipulative jerks, and you get to see a number of individuals actually reaching into their cars and stealing pieces of their clothing, stealing Bonnie's jewelry, stealing Clyde's watch, wanting to see their bodies. Just really aggressive, really sleazy. It's how people are. I mean, they build up their heroes and they love them so much, you know, if they want to be their villains, their heroes, what have you. But when they fall down, they want to take their flesh. Their pound of flesh. It always happens, unfortunately. But very well shot, a very tight, really tight film. I honestly, I thought going into it, 2 hours, 12 minutes, this is going to be a really long film, but there really weren't any slow parts. There was no part of it where I was just bored or I felt like I needed to look away or to focus on something else. I didn't lose interest throughout. It definitely kept me entertained throughout, which I really, really enjoyed in that aspect. The script was really well thought out, and it did have quite a bit of attention to detail. Things like throwing in Bonnie's limp from an accident, her needs for different pain meds, even going into what kind of guns they were using, the fact that they were willing to risk being captured potentially to actually get a bunny rabbit to her mother. You know, things like that definitely help portray the story as far as Bonnie and Clyde go, and I really appreciated it. It was definitely the film that I was hoping it would be, and I do respect their attention to detail in that matter. So that's it for this episode of Cinema Figures. Please do give me a like if you like this video, comment below, and tell me whether or not you watched Highwaymen on Netflix, and tell me what you thought about it. Did you enjoy the film as much as I did? You know, put your comments down in the comment section below. Please do subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined, or you know, maybe check out my second channel here on YouTube, Cat Run Figures, where I discuss comics and stuff like that. But until next time, I'm your host, Caitlin. Bye.